The dysfunction, chaos, and lack of team chemistry are on full display for the New York Jets and the Vegas Raiders, the Denver Broncos' next two opponents, and really are just diametrically opposed to what the Denver Broncos have right now as they are stowed away at like this amazing resort. We're going to break down the dysfunction, why it truly makes me think the Denver Broncos are going to go from being 0-2 to being 3-2 before we even know it. We're going to break it all down and so much more in this video. If you're new to the channel, I'm Ben. I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan. If you believe in the Broncos, it helps me out a ton if you would like and subscribe. So here it is right here where the Denver Broncos are. They are discovering life as very few know it. Sean Payton asked the league for back-to-back East Coast games. We shocked the world as 7-point underdogs and beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a very hot 2-0 team. We partied all night in Tampa. We brought Club Dub out. You saw our just some amazing scenes from the locker room as you had Bo Nix and our ownership at just getting down to it, a fog machine, all this amazing stuff. And now they are horseback riding, paintballing. They're probably under that pergola right there. Can't you just picture Singleton and Quinn Meinerz with their shirts off, just throwing a Frisbee around? It seems amazing. And all the players were talking about how much they were looking forward to this trip and how much this was going to do for a young and hungry team who already beat a team that the NFL said we had no business beating. And you compare that to the dysfunction that is happening all in New York and all in Vegas, and it just has you feel incredible about this team next week and this team for years to come. And so we have heard all about the dysfunction that has happened in New York over several years. We've just seen Zach Wilson sit himself out because he doesn't want to play anymore last year. We saw just all of the things where you hear multiple people come out, including coaches on the New York Jets, and say Rodgers is acting like he is our GM. They went out and signed players like Alan Lazard to a deal that he really does not deserve that deal, but he was Aaron Rodgers' guy. We see what happens. The Denver Broncos probably hired Nathaniel Hackett because we thought we were going to get Aaron Rodgers here in Denver, and you just see how horrible Nathaniel Hackett is for a team culture because he is a pure player coach with no X's and O's knowledge whatsoever. He is the ultimate hype man. But as maybe you kind of see with Coach Prime and CU, like you got to actually know the game and be able to call the game, and you got to do hours and hours of study in order to make, you got to camp out. It's a full-time job. And I think that is the problem Nathaniel Hackett is. He is all fun, clearing out the media room in Denver and making it a game room and bringing ice cream trucks on the field and canceling practices and not even honoring what the NFL wants you to do in training camp, even going less than what the collective bargaining agreement allows them to do. Whereas you saw Sean Payton ride it all the way up and just ride that line as hard as he could, saying, hey, if they say we can have this many practices and they can be this long and this many times in pads and this many days off, he honors it to the letter of the law because he knows how important that is. And so far, we have been one of the least injured teams in football since Sean Payton has been here. We then hear more and more come out. There are just dozens of articles saying that it is a bleeping mess with Aaron Rodgers, acting like he is the de facto GM, and then even had the election turn different ways. You could see a world where Aaron Rodgers was going to be potentially one of the running mates with RFK, and football is the last thing on that dude's mind at this point in his career. Coming off an Achilles injury, he does not scare me. He's had one good game against a Patriots team who we've seen just is not that great of a team, and there's just pure dysfunction there, so much so that even this offseason, Robert Saleh and the New York Jets went out and tried to hire an actual offensive coordinator who would be above Nathaniel Hackett so that Nathaniel Hackett could basically just be Aaron Rodgers' personal hype man, very similar to what Russell Wilson had when he had his own coaches. That's what Nathaniel Hackett would have been for Aaron Rodgers. It gets even worse as we see the New York Jets wanted this amazing pass rusher, Hasaan Reddick, and agreed in terms to a deal to him. He's a legit playmaker. He is wild. And so to get enough cap space for him, they moved on from John Franklin Meyer. The Denver Broncos were able to steal Franklin Meyer for a 6th-round draft pick, and he's starting right away on what is one of the best defensive lines in the entire football league right now. And that's a cold, hard, unbiased fact. That's just PFF telling us and seeing the amount of sacks we've had so far this year. Well, Hasaan Reddick has not even shown up yet and has no intention of showing up. And so the Jets took a for sure starter in Franklin Myre, shipped him out for what they thought was a for sure thing in Hasaan Reddick, and he has yet to show up. It gets worse as we see Sauce Gardner, who has talked about himself like he thinks he's better than Pat Surtain. I think the numbers over these first 3 games prove that is just not the case when you look at just the number of catches he's allowed some amazing wide receivers through 3 weeks. Like, look at what he did to Metcalf the first game, what he did the second game against Pickens, and then what he did this last week against Mike Evans. He's legit. Well, in that first game against the San Francisco 49ers, Sauce Gardner pulled himself off of the field, most likely. They still haven't even gotten to the bottom of what was happening there, but he was taken out for several plays for an unknown reason, and just really walked off like a kid who was sad that he wasn't getting the playing time he wanted. He took a knee, and he didn't look at any of his players, didn't say anything, put his head in his hand, and was the last player to leave the field afterwards. And so you just see pure chaos erupting. And I think we are at a place where our team going into MetLife Stadium, who believe in each other, who are young and hungry, who have the wind at their back after last week's victory against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, playing against this team that all you can describe it as chaos. Like, even today, Pat McAfee asked Aaron Rodgers on his show about these reports. And of course, Rodgers shoots him down because the reports are saying our starting quarterback is acting like he's our GM. So of course he's going to shut him down, but they are really on a teetering on the edge of that cliff. And I think they're going to see a fired up together Broncos team who believes in each other come in and just get them pushed off of that cliff. And I think it is going to spiral out of control quickly for the New York Jets. And you just look at Aaron Rodgers and his body language, and you compare that to the leader that Bo Nix is. Bo Nix constantly making about everyone but himself. Aaron Rodgers missing mandatory OTAs to some reports are saying like on an ayahuasca retreat. Who knows what is happening there? But the fact of the matter is the Broncos have an incredible team chemistry and they buy in, and that should really scare the rest of the NFL. Our game after that is up against the Vegas Raiders, who shocked the world by beating the Baltimore Ravens. And really, it's just they put together 10 minutes of good football and came back from a slight deficit. And I think everyone changed all their opinions on the Vegas Raiders. But I think the fact remains that interim coaches coming in, they have players like who get up and get hyped and played hard for him at the end of the year. But we saw with Romeo Crennel, there's a whole list of interim coaches who get some production out of their team at the end of a season and come in and fall flat on their face. And I think that is about what we're going to see with the Vegas Raiders losing to one of the worst teams in football over the past, really since they were in the Super Bowl a bunch of years ago, in the Carolina Panthers. And now there's quarterback controversy brewing again. And you heard Antonio Pierce go out and call players out. And he just doesn't have the street cred to do that yet, in the fact that hasn't even coached 10 games yet, and he's already calling players out from that bully pulpit. And it drives me nuts to hear the people who say that Sean Payton is a bully and not a player's coach, and you got to be more like Antonio Pierce. And Sean Payton has never done that. He still has never publicly said anything bad about Russell Wilson in any of his press conferences. It's the rest of us reading between the lines.
The Payton.
And we will never forget Josh Jacobs leaving for nothing for the Vegas Raiders and saying, of course I was going to leave and go play with the Packers. These guys wanted me to come back on a discount to lose. And I think that's just a fantastic, fantastic thing. And already rumors swirling about Devontae Adams being trade bait as the Raiders are in full disarray. One thing to also take note of is that Aaron Rodgers has played very, very well against the blitz. And so one of the things we'll be watching for on Sunday is the Denver Broncos have really leaned on the blitz. They're the most blitz-heavy team in the NFL. And some people are saying that like, oh, that can't continue. The teams will figure out how to throw over top and make that burn them. But the fact of the matter is that if Riley Moss continues to play at the level he is playing at right now, he is a Pro Bowl caliber cornerback, and even non-Broncos fans will say that. Obviously, Pat Surtain is. Like, we have 2 Pro Bowl quality cornerbacks right now, and Jaquan as a slot corner locks it down. And so I don't think this is a flash in the pan. I do think we can continue to bring this type of pressure because it's backed up by incredible coverage there. But as our next 2 opponents are spiraling down the death spiral, the Denver Broncos are together. They're on horseback right now. They're shooting paintballs at each other, and the vibes are immaculate, and we've got a ton to believe in. Facts right there. That proved everything I said is true.